This is LSAT PrepTest 153, Section 1, Passage 2, about fish farming, specifically whether it helps or hurts wild ocean fisheries. This is medium difficulty because the passage looks balanced, but it's not. And that gap between how it looks and what it's actually doing is where the hard questions are. Now, this is a science passage. The author's building a case that fish farming mostly makes the overfishing problem worse, even though it sounds like a fix. Now, the most important paragraph is the first one. It's where the author shows you exactly what they think. Everything after it is just evidence. Paragraph 1 starts with setup you can move through quickly. Fish farming is booming, it doubled in a decade, and it already produces a quarter of the fish people eat. Fine, that's all background. But then you hit the expert claim that fish farming will actually restore wild fish populations. The author immediately kills it after that. They say little, if any, evidence. You want to stop on those 4 words. It's not a gentle disagreement. It is a dismissal. If you read past that phrase too fast, you're going to spend the rest of the passage thinking the author is open to the idea, but they're not. Then at the very bottom of the paragraph, you get the paradox statement. Fish farming is both a possible solution and a contributing factor to the decline. Now, this looks like a balanced thesis, 2 sides evenly weighted. But here's what you've got to notice. The author just spent 2 sentences saying the upside has no evidence. So the possible solution, half of that paradox, is already on thin ice before paragraph 2 even starts. Read this at a normal speed, but then hit the brakes at the end, because that paradox sentence is your map for the entire passage. Paragraph 2 is the environmental damage argument. Pollution, waste, pathogen spreading, non-native species escaping into the ocean. You don't have to memorize all that, of course, but what you need to catch is where the paragraph lands. The very last phrase ties all of it back to wild fishery stocks. Every problem in this paragraph circles back to the same idea. Fish farming damages the thing it is supposed to protect. You want to keep a steady pace here because this is evidence for a point already made. It's not a new idea. Then paragraph 3 is the feed problem, and it's pretty sneaky. Farming most fish species requires massive amounts of wild fish as input, almost 2 kilograms of wild fish for every 1 kilogram of farmed fish. For carnivores like salmon, you need up to 5. So you're burning through wild fish to support producing farmed fish. That is not a solution. That is a new problem. Then the passage throws you a bone. 3 species, catfish, milkfish, and carp, have a better ratio. And defenders of fish farming say wild predators eat even more than farmed ones do. But you want to watch how much space these defenses get. They only get 1 sentence each. And then the 5 kilogram number drops and buries both of them. The author is not presenting a fair debate here. They are letting the other side talk just long enough to knock it down. So if you treat those counterpoints as real balance in the passage, you're going to get the attitude wrong. You want to slow down here. The numbers are important. Then paragraph 4 is the trap paragraph. It starts with a genuine concession. Fish farming can lower prices. It can reduce investment in fishing fleets. Tilapia and catfish can sub for ocean fish like cod. And that all sounds like good news. And it is good news for about 4 sentences. Then the word nonetheless comes in and takes it all back. Niche markets for wild-caught fish are growing, and people still want the real thing. Catch rates stay high, even as farmed alternatives become available. So the benefit exists in theory, but disappears in practice. And that's where a fast reader loses points. If you skim paragraph 4 and walk away thinking the author ended on a hopeful note, you read the first half and you missed the second. That nonetheless is doing more work than almost any other word in the passage. Now, the key move here is the give and take. Every time the passage offers a reason fish farming might help, the author pulls it away. Experts say they'll restore fisheries, no evidence. It could reduce pressure, but it creates environmental damage. It could be efficient, but the feed ratios are terrible. It could lower demand for wild fish, but niche markets keep catch rates high. The entire passage runs on this rhythm. Offer, then withdraw. If you see that pattern, you can predict what the questions are going to ask you. Now, the author, of course, thinks fish farming does more harm than good for wild fisheries. That is their opinion. The main trap is reading this as a neutral weighing of the pros and cons. And it looks that way because the author does acknowledge some benefits, but every benefit gets undercut within a few sentences. If you miss that pattern, you're going to pick answers that call the author objective or ambivalent. The author is neither one. They gave the other side a hearing and then rejected it. That's not the same thing as being undecided. Now, before you hit the questions, check yourself on 3 things. First, why does the author bring up the expert prediction about restoring fisheries if they're just going to dismiss it? Second, what is paragraph 3 really proving with all those numbers? And third, what job is the word nonetheless doing near the end of paragraph 4?